but I know you have written about them on your Substack page,
Sure.
which is something I discovered through Tony Fletcher's Substack page, and subsequently the podcast you do with Tony called Cross Channels, which is available to paid subscribers to both your Substack accounts. One story in particular you wrote involved going to a rock and roll fantasy camp in Las Vegas in 2013, I believe,
Correct. Yeah.
and an encounter, shall we say, with Roger Daltrey and Simon Townsend. Could you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, that was I mean, that was a very memorable experience. Basically, I was writing for a magazine at the time called Guitar Aficionado, and the assignment was they were going to send me to Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, which happens several times a year in Vegas. And I was going, I was basically going to be embedded. Like, I wasn't going to tell anybody that I was a journalist. I was just going to go as a camper, and I was going to bring my guitar, and we were, and they change like the big guests and kind of the themes of every camp. Each camp changes per session. The theme of this one was The Who. So my editor knew, like, I was a huge Who fan. He's like, Roger Daltrey's going to be there, blah, blah, blah. You should go to this. I'm like, okay, great. And so basically the gist of the camp is that they separate you into various bands. And I to this day, I don't know how they decide who goes where, but each band is kind of captained by, a well-known or semi-well-known professional musician. My band was captained by Teddy Andriotis, aka Teddy Zigzag, who's played keyboards with Guns N' Roses, Carole King, Alice Cooper, a whole bunch of people. Great dude, great player. And so, we would, so each band kind of works up a set. And it can be a mix of cover songs, original songs, if anybody has the guts to offer one up. And then, of course, we had to learn at least one Who song, because on the last day of camp, Roger Daltrey and Simon Townsend would show up, and we would get a chance to play our song with them on the camp stage.
Oh, wow.
So we learned Bob O'Reilly, and Teddy's a great keyboardist, so he could do all the all the whittly bits, and and so that was amazing, and but it was also it was daunting, because that lead break at the end, that do 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 thing, like that was mine to take. But Simon's there playing with us, so he's taking it as well. And I'm feeling weird about stepping on Simon. B, not hoping I don't screw it up. It was incredible to be on stage with Roger, especially, and Roger's just belting it out, and I'm off to, I guess I'm in kind of the John Entwistle position, although playing guitar on stage right, and just like there's Roger singing Bob O'Reilly, just like he did at the beginning of the Kids Are All Right film, which was the film that like completely turned me into a hardcore Who fan. But what was frustrating was we had so because nobody knew that I was a journalist and that I needed to get my picture taken on stage with Roger for the magazine, I kept trying to like sidle over to where Roger was on stage, rock out with him. But when we had our singer in the group, our regular singers, this guy Danny, who's like a professional Rod Stewart impersonator. So that was a whole thing. But so Danny's kind of like in between me and Roger, and like every time I try to go over there, Danny kind of like steps in and kind of rock blocks me. So so finally so I'm like, so this is all happening like, well, I'm also trying to play the song and play it right. Yeah, so finally at the end of the song, there's one photographer who knows who I am and what I'm doing and is there to like take pictures for the magazine. So he's at the front of the stage. And so right as the song is finished and people are packing up, like before Roger can leave the stage, I run over to Roger, like at the microphone, stick my guitar kind of like, the neck up in front of both of us. And I'm like, Roger, look at the camera. And he looks down like, and then, the guy snaps it. And there is our photo for the magazine. And then to cap it all off, that night we had the battle of the bands. Roger's gone home by this point, but we're at this lounge in Vegas, and all the bands are playing their set, and against each other in this battle. And we were one of the songs that I was tapped to sing and kind of lead the band on was T-Rex's 20th Century Boy. And I remember Teddy telling me, like, before the show, like, your songs, man, you lead the band, you tell us when to stop, if you want to take it out long, whatever. So I decided, like, 20th Century Boy needs to end with this big Who-like bang. And I jump up, to do what would turn out to be the last Pete Townsend leap of my life, because I came down, somebody must have like spilled their beer on the stage or something. So I came down on this like slippery spot. My knee completely like wobbles out of socket. I fall down flat on my face, on my guitar, squealing feedback. And, and it just like happens in a nanosecond. And like, I know something's gone wrong, but I don't know what. And then I have this incredibly surreal experience of like, Kip Winger, who of Winger fame, who is like the camp director, is on stage giving me this like, football coach type pep talk, like, you're going to finish the rest of the set. And I'm just like, yeah, man, whatever. And they pull up a bar stool from the bar and sit me on it. Meanwhile, like my knee is throbbing. And so we have to then play Baba O'Reilly. And I'm like when it comes to the lead break, like I'm on the stool and trying to like, managed to turn my boost pedal on with my left foot while not falling off the stool, and then I left the stage in a wheelchair, so that was very dramatic.
Wow. I mean, that sounds quite an ordeal, but to put it mildly. But were you at least on the Pete Townsend side of the stage when you did it this time?
Yes, I was. Yes,
okay,
I was.
So some consolation.
Yes, it's I mean, Pete would have wanted it that way, right?
Yeah. Well, he's not afraid to sit down for a few songs himself nowadays. So
this is true.
You mentioned the Kids Are Alright. Was that your first exposure to the Who?
No, but it was the first time I really understood them, or felt that I understood them. I mean, the Who were kind of always there. Like, I was a child of the 70s, so like, Tommy comes out in like 1970. I mean, the movie comes out, and it's like the Who's Tommy, and then when Who Are You came out, I remember like that being on the radio and not really liking it that much, but like understanding that it was a big deal. Like the Who were back and they have this song. It wasn't really until I think it would have been like 81. There was a double feature. There's this great movie theater near my high school called the Parkway. This is in Chicago, and they always had these great double bills. And I think one Saturday night, a friend of mine and I went to see a double bill of The Kids Are All Right and Quadrophenia.
Oh, wow.
And this was, and I didn't really know the album Quadrophenia. I didn't know much. I don't think I'd ever heard a Who album all the way through. At that point, I think I'd only heard, what they played on the radio, which was the more kind of, there occasionally you'd hear things like Can't Explain or Substitute, but mostly it was like Pinball Wizard, Long Live Rock, Bob O'Reilly, Won't Get Fooled Again, 515. 515 and The Real Me were probably the only songs I knew off of Quadrophenia at that point. And I came out of that theater a convert, just like, everything. That was the moment where I started to like, I was, I think for the last 2, 3 years of high school, I definitely gravitated more towards mod type fashions. That was Quadrophenia was a huge influence on that. And just like see, the like I didn't even think about it until much, much later that there's no narration in The Kids Are All Right. It's not in any kind of chronological order, yet it somehow tells a story, and so, and you kind of put the pieces together yourself and come to an understanding about the band yourself. And I mean, there's so much about and there's I think really the ultimate moment. It's still the ultimate moment of The Kids Are All Right for me was the Rock and Roll Circus performance of A Quick One While He's Away. It was like the whole medley thing, that with all these kind of peaks and valleys. Like this was not like anything I was at all familiar with, because at the time I'm into like, it's 81, so I'm into like the Jam and Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe and just like all these people who make these short 3-minute punchy songs. And here's this 8-minute medley that explodes at the end with uh, Keith on the drums and the operatic falsetto vocals, and that combination of the falsetto vocals and the just nasty guitar distortion. That was something that really just, I don't, that touched a nerve. And in fact, in like various bands that I've been in over the years, I've always tried to work that combination in somehow, because I just thought like that was a really underrated part of the Who. Like, yes, they rocked out. Yes, Keith Moon was an amazing drummer. Yes, Pete Townsend was a powerful guitarist. John Entwistle was an incredible bassist. Roger was this powerful vocalist. But there's something about the way the Who would often balance these very delicate, almost angelic elements. Something about that really touched me deeply.